Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Pendo Working Group conversation. Today is July 11th, um, and we're probably on our last one or our second to last working group meeting here. So, Jeremy, you have the first agenda item talking about the testing summary, which has been shared with the team. Did you want to go through that, or was there anything else you wanted to discuss?
No, I think that I just want to make everyone aware that summary exists. Please share and comment on that document if there's something that I missed there. We can talk a little bit in this working group, probably about a recommendation, which that summary lacks. But overall, I'd like to maybe get that document into an issue at some point in the near future. So, feel free to share and collaborate and provide any feedback or additional details there. I wanted to ask Christy about the test plan status, but she's not here, so we will postpone that item.
Yeah, I know Christy is out this week. I was hoping that Shane could maybe pick up the baton while she was out, but I can ping both of them in the Slack channel. We do have.
Sorry, I talked to her last week. She wanted me to review the test plan, and I gave it a thumbs up. I don't think she had anything else to add to it, so it may be complete, but yeah, we should definitely verify with her.
And Donald, is all of the engineering stuff complete?
Yes. Yeah, the performance test plan is complete. And I took a look at the summary, at Jeremy's summary, and from the performance side, it looks fine.
Okay, great. Shane, on the marketing side of things, obviously it looks like that's pretty buttoned up with respect to the summary that Jeremy provided, but is there anything that you or William still need answered or is outstanding?
Nope, I think all of our questions have been answered either by Pendo or by the tests, so marketing is good to go.
Okay, great. And then Eli, how about from your perspective in the data team's actions?
Yeah, nothing outstanding. I think everything's in the test plan.
I need to take a quick phone call. Jeremy, can you keep driving the meeting?
Yeah, sure, no worries. Wanted to ask, so on item 2, I just wrote down specific items from the summary discussion. Was there anything clear or unclear in terms of like the concerns that were shared in that warrants further discussion? Like Eric stepped away, but he had a question that I wanted to cover around like Pendo being primarily client side. But does anyone kind of have comments or concerns or questions about some of like the concerns that I raised in that document? Again, like this was a little bit one way since I created this doc, so happy to discuss or go a little bit further. I'll take silence as not right now. So I'll hopefully wait till Eric gets back and then we can kind of start talking a little bit about the client side issue if you need some more detail there, and then we can kind of talk a little bit about recommendation and next steps. Yes, in all transparency, I did manage to go through this very briefly with Eric this morning, and I think the biggest sticking points were kind of what were around like Pendo being primarily client side and not being able to having serious challenge capturing some of the instance level data. Pendo like losing details of like subgroups and projects and namespaces and so forth, and the way that we would be able to execute this as self-managed might make it a challenge. So we might have to go with GitLab.com only for use of Pendo. So Eric, the next item in the agenda, are there any questions or specific items from the summary discussion that warranted further discussion? Like you and I had like a quick session like around for some of those concerns. Like, do you feel like we need to continue discussing any of that? Do you feel comfortable with some of those and feel like you understand them pretty well, or do we need to discuss in this group?
I do. I feel personally comfortable, but wanted to make sure that the rest of the team kind of feels comfortable. Has everyone, just a quick kind of thumbs up or head nod, has everyone actually gotten a chance to read the whole summary that Jeremy put together so they understand things holistically? So Shane, yes. Yeah, Donald, yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make you all aware too. There's one thing from the product test plan that we haven't yet done, and I'm planning on doing it sometime this afternoon, which is hey, a product manager doesn't know this tool and goes into it and attempts to do something useful in a short amount of time. So I'm going to be recording that experience and getting that done this afternoon. But I don't know if it's actually going to change anything materially. I've watched Jeremy do a bunch of things. I've gone through some training and stuff like that. So it's not like a fully controlled test where I've never seen Pendo before, but I'm still planning on doing that. I don't have any specific feedback on the summary discussion or the testing summary that you put together, Jeremy. But I did want to get everyone's opinions. Like one of the big things I've been thinking about has been some of like the business implications. So if we put a paid tool on into an open source project, then basically every time someone spins this thing up, we're going to incur costs that may not actually get recouped. And so I wondered if anyone had any other thoughts on that.
What's Pendo's pricing model like? It scales linearly with the number of users and events.
Yeah, it's per MAUs. At least that's what it used to be. So I don't know how it would. I don't know if they have, and maybe we've asked that. Like, do they have examples of deploying like the way we do it with self-managed instances?
Well, I know that Todd used this with Ansible that was self-managed. So like they didn't have service. And so they use Pendo with that. So I'm not sure about the pricing implications there. But I know that that's, if we have questions about that, I think Todd can answer those.
Yeah, Todd and I have been trying to connect all morning and it just hasn't happened yet. So I'll take that offline and come back to the team with that if we need anything else. Okay, so I think, Jeremy, that's kind of it that I had from specific items. I think one of the things that'll come up is if we make a recommendation that says, hey, Pendo can't do something, the kind of stick of measure will be, well, can Snowplow like already do that thing, or will it require customization, which is akin to some of my comments in that issue, or sorry, that doc. So we'll need to either have an answer or like a plan on if they both require extensibility to get additional data, like such as like backend tracking, as you mentioned. We'll need to kind of weigh how does that happen, which tool is easier to implement that kind of stuff in. And then can we just augment with other frameworks that we have, such as usage ping? So that'll be the only thing we probably need to put a little bit more thought into. But other than that, like I think the document looks pretty good.
Why do you think that we need to look at it that way, Eric? Like to me, like the fact that like Pendo has shortcomings and what it's able to do for the product team is not a question of like, well, can Snowplow do it? Yes or no. It's like, is that something that we need to be able to answer yes or no? If it is, then like we need to look and investigate other tools. Maybe Snowplow does a great job of it. Maybe there's some other tool, maybe like Amplitude or like Segment or there's some other route that we can take. But to me, it shouldn't be like, Pendo versus Snowplow. It's like Pendo does X. Does that meet the product org's needs? Yes or no? Are there hard blockers? If there are, then we need to figure out a way of like unblocking them, whether or not that's using Snowplow or some other tool or some other like strategy. So I agree and I hear what you're saying, but to me, like we haven't done enough homework to warrant like you accurately assessed like at the very beginning of this is like we've myopically said like Pendo yes or no, but it's actually like we have this scope of needs and like we need to do vendor discovery and like what other tools can address that. And to me, like that's the right approach.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. My only comment there, and maybe I just didn't do a good job of explaining myself, was if Pendo doesn't do something, but could be augmented to do that functionality, even if it required like outside of the box configuration. And Snowplow doesn't also do that by default, but requires some out of the box configuration. To me, that would not necessarily be like a silver bullet for killing the functionality. Sorry, or killing the engagement in general. That's all I was trying to say.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah, but I totally agree with what you're saying, which is like, if there's a requirement that is a hard requirement, non-negotiable, like we absolutely have to have our telemetry framework do X, Y, and Z, and any tool can't do that, then it shouldn't be about a comparison of tools. It should just be a binary decision based off of that particular tool. And so like I'm totally fine with that, unless like no tool in the market does that and we're asking some crazy specific custom requirements. Then it would be about, okay, let's find the one that does the best job of satisfying our requirements.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay, cool. All right, Jeremy, you had recommendation as an agenda item.
I don't know if we feel equipped at this moment to be able to make one, but I wanted to at least bring that up because of my summary lacks a recommendation at the moment. Do you maybe want to, Eric, do you want to sync up offline outside this meeting? Because I know that you're still getting your legs under you. I know that you wanted to take some time to like go through Pendo itself this afternoon. I know we have the debrief with Pendo tomorrow. Do we feel like punting on the recommendation for now and then like sharing that asynchronously and then maybe reviewing that in the next working group session as we close it out, or what do you think?
Yeah, I think we should probably hold off on that for now and then work on this throughout the week and then come back next week. The last thing I'll say there too is I think that we have the test plans completed. We have all of the input from the various functional teams, with potentially the exception of the UX team that we need to follow off offline. So I don't think there's anything else needed. I think it just requires a coalescing of everyone's output. I think it requires a conversation with Todd, and I think it requires obviously an overlay of commercials as well as technical efficacy. So yeah, let's just postpone this because there's more wrapped up into this than just what this team has been tasked to do.
Cool, makes sense.
Yep.
So in terms of concrete next steps, Eric, you and I can obviously sync up and work throughout early next week. I did call out that there's a debrief with Pendo. It's today. We're trying to move it to tomorrow. Eric, you and I are the only ones on that. Feel free to give a shout if you'd like to be included in that. Happy to invite everyone as optional, but at the moment, it's just Eric and I, just to save y'all from a meeting. So
cool. That sounds good to me.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else for today?
So this is probably beyond, well, this is beyond the scope of this Pendo working group. But one thing I think this highlighted, and I don't know, maybe it was kind of highlighted beforehand, and that's the whole reason we were even looking at Pendo, but is the importance of putting a focus on the client-side data visualization, essentially. And we probably can't figure out what our next steps are going to be until we determine whether we are going to use Pendo or not. But I guess what should the next steps be there? Should that be, because we also have the kind of telemetry working group that's somewhat looking at this, but not really related. Like, I don't want us to decide that we're not going to use Pendo and then not move forward on getting the either snowplow analytics visualized, or start looking at a different tool like Segment or anything else. Does that make sense? Like, what's kind of the plan there?
Well, the plan of this working group was to evaluate Pendo. The plan of remind me, I think the exit criteria of the other telemetry working group changed while I was out, and Jeremy, you helped scope it down. What was that again?
It's just create a dashboard for a single stage and make sure that we can replicate that approach across other stages. So that working group, had like tons and tons of different directions it was going in. And I just scoped it down to like, hey, let's create a stage specific dashboard and like, let's replicate that across other stages. So I think that, like, Donald, your point is well taken. Like, we need to, if we, that the conversation obviously doesn't stop here if we decide to go with Pendo or not go with Pendo. So, maybe that becomes the genesis for another working group, possibly, where we, discover, say, like, okay, we're not going with Pendo, so let's do some vendor discovery, or like understand how we're going to solve, products needs, or, the needs of all departments with whatever approach we have. But either whether that starts as an issue or is led by an incoming like telemetry PM or a working group, I think is to be determined. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Yeah, that answers my question. I was wondering if it should be the telemetry team or stage as we're building that out. Might make the most sense, but cool.
Yeah, I don't know what the status of that hire is. I mean, right now Luca is filling in for that. I know she has a lot on her plate, so it might be, the responsibility of maybe like Jensen on the growth team to try to lead some of that thinking. But I agree with Eric. Like, this point of this working group is to drive this to conclusion. We're going to do that, and then we'll figure out offline kind of what the next steps make the most sense. But I think you're totally right, obviously.
Cool.
Yeah. Eric, do you disagree with any of that?
I don't. Yeah, and I apologize, Donald, because it's not like a very black and white answer. But I think it is important to simplify where we can. And the scope of this working group was to basically say, does Pendo work for what we need it to do? And then fitting that into the broader telemetry picture is something that basically me and Luca and Jeremy need to figure out, probably offline and outside of this working group is what I would say.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for your time, for all the hard work while I was out. I appreciate it. It's great to see everyone. Have a great rest of your Thursday.
Cheers, y'all. Thanks.